In this video, we'll be covering the modification of assessment event notifications by the RTO and how that affects the assessment event and what the assessor will need to do to accept or reject those changes. So I've got a pre-prepared assessment event here. If we just search for this one using our search function on the AENs, we can see that this assessment event is in plan status. And if we head over to it as the RTO, we'll see the assessor has put in the knowledge time, the calculation time, the performance time, and these are the people that will be attending that assessment event. Now, in the event that you have candidates which need to be added to an assessment event before the assessment event starts, you can go ahead and do that while the assessment event is planned. The limitation there is that this can only be done up until 11:59 p.m. of the day before of the first assessment type. In this case, we have knowledge starting on the 31st of the 3rd. So you could add candidates to this assessment event all the way up until the 30th of the 3rd at 11:59 p.m. The important thing to note is that if you add candidates to a planned assessment event, it'll change that to modified, and we'll see that in a second. However, if an assessor doesn't accept those candidates into that assessment event before that assessment event starts, the candidates will be removed. So any candidates that an assessor has already accepted will be in the list, and we'll add in a new one. So we'll head over to add candidate. We'll put in a name and the date of birth. We'll search for one. In our case here, this candidate doesn't exist, so we'll create a new one, put in a phone number, our email, our street address, and our suburb, which will pre-fill the rest of the details. If we now hit submit, what you'll see is a blue message up the top that tells you candidates have been updated. To save changes and notify the assessor, select modify. So if we head down, you can see that any candidates that have already been added will be in white, and a new candidate will be in green. To send this candidate to an assessor for their consideration and planning, you'll need to hit the modify button. So once we hit the modify button and we hit yes, you'll see that this assessment event is now in modified status. That means that this assessor can actually see this candidate, and they'll now need to choose an allocation. You'll also notice that the difference between this candidate and the other candidates is that you have the ability to remove this candidate. That's because the assessor hasn't added this candidate to the event that's been planned yet. So until the assessor actions it, the RTO has the ability to remove that one candidate or as many as you've added. This may happen for various reasons. You also have the ability to edit the candidate. And once you do so, if we hit the edit button, you'll see that you have full edit functionality. So you can edit the candidate, the first name, the surname, the date of birth, and all of the other details. Now if we head back, if we select one of the candidates that have already been planned by the assessor, you'll see these candidates can't be removed. So if we hit the edit button, you'll notice there's a big difference between what can be edited. Now, in the case that you need to edit a candidate and the assessor has already planned it, what you'll need to do is liaise with the assessor, have the assessor unallocate that candidate, and you'll need to use this process of modification to an assessment event that's already been planned to re-add the candidate so that you can do the process as per the one that we've just added. So if we go back into that one, you'll see that once it's modified, you can change all of those details again. If we now head back out, we can see this assessment event is in modified status. If we made any changes, the modified button would be available for us again. We can select that to apply any of those changes that would be shown to the assessor. In our case, we have nothing left to do, so we'll jump over to the assessor and see how this assessment event looks from their side. So here we are as the assessor with our assessor number in the top right. We've got our assessment event number 100962. If we do a search, we'll see that this assessment event is now in modified status. Now, once an assessment event gets modified, you'll receive a notification and you'll also see it on your home page. In our case, the search is just a quick way of getting there. So if we open this assessment event, we'll see that we now have our 4 candidates that we've added, and we have a candidate that we still need to allocate. In order for us to plan this assessment event again, we have to choose an allocation, yes or no. If we don't want to make that selection right now, we can close this event and just go back. Otherwise, to move on from this page, we need to select yes or no. The other thing that we can do is mouse over on the right, and we'll see quickly the details for that candidate or any other candidate. An important thing to note here is that if we don't add this candidate to this assessment event by the time that the first assessment type is starting, in this case knowledge, so we would have to add it by the 30th of the 3rd at 11:59 p.m. If this candidate stays in an unselected status, they would not progress to the assessment. So once the result entry begins, it will only be available for the candidates that were selected yes. In this case here, we'll accept this candidate and we'll hit the plan button. So once we hit the plan button, we'll see that our assessment event number 100962 has been planned successfully, and if we do another search, we'll see the status has changed to planned. If we now go back into this assessment event, the final activity about modifying assessment events is that the knowledge, calculations, and performance dates and start times can be edited before the assessment event starts. Now, if you have a knowledge, calculations, or performance assessment that's starting at a time in the future that is quite extensive, like this one, you can change that date to anything as long as it meets the 3-day validation. You can also change the time to anything that it needs to be. Once it reaches the 3-day validation, you'll no longer be able to change the dates. You'll only be able to change the time and the location. So keep that in mind for planning and modification of assessment events. Once you're done and you're happy with all of your changes, you can head back, or if you've made any changes, hit planned.